But you're exactly right. That is the key to ultimately being the best advisor you possibly can, is answering those two questions in every single home.
Hello and welcome to episode 32 of the Life Insurance Academy podcast. I'm your host, Austin Lopes-Rivero, and I'm here with Chris Ball, Zach McElwain, and Roger Short. The LIA podcast takes you into the conversations of top producing life insurance agents so that you can level up your business. For episode notes and resources, visit liapodcast.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Life Insure Acad. Also, make sure you subscribe to our text notifications for episode releases and agent resources. All you have to do is send the letters LIA to the number 82149. That's 82149, and a message with the letters LIA. Thanks for joining us for another episode. Today, we're starting on a series on closing. Over the next 3 episodes, we'll walk through the closing checklist, but before we get going on the first item, guys, why is this important to agents?
I'll tell you, Austin, closing is where the money's made. It's the final shot in the fourth quarter. This is where it all comes down to. And one of the biggest mistakes that agents make is they think closing always comes at the end. But it's actually not true. It's a build up, and it's the ABCs always be closing. It starts at the very beginning. You are closing from the moment you meet your client. And to really understand that, we're going to walk you through every aspect of that, all the way through to different closing styles, techniques, all the way down to presenting them and displaying those options to your clients. And hopefully we're walking away. In fact, if you follow this, I know you'll walk away with a lot more sales than you have now.
Sweet. Well, let's dive into this first episode of the series. What's today's topic?
We want to make sure that we build value. And this is really that topic that Zach is talking about, of closing from the moment you start, when you start your sit or start your conversation with your client. And I think one of the biggest mistakes that agents make is assuming that the clients value us and our products. You know, I think sometimes agents show up to the door with the attitude that, hey, we're here with that fancy life insurance that you were looking for, that you requested, and you know everything about it. You know everything you need to know about it. I just need you to sign. That's it. I just need you to sign on the dotted line. And they haven't helped the client understand the value of the product or even what we bring as agents.
I think a lot of that, Chris, can be lost in the repetition of what we do. I mean, repetition is one of the best things we can do. As far as going into the homes, we get more comfortable, we get more confident, we start to really hone in our skills. But I think the mistake we make with that is assuming that we've done this so many times and we understand it so well that the first time the client hears it, they should understand it as well as we do, as far as building value and finding the real need. And a lot of times our clients aren't always on the same pace as we are, or we seem to be when we're fully experienced. So we need to take our time and walk through this, and it is unique for every client we sit with.
And I would also say it is on a repetition piece where that gets lost. I also think on the front side, I mean, I'll tell you, because we're so new and we're trying to figure out the sales process, we don't even know. Like, we don't even know the value we bring or the product, what the value of the product, how valuable the product is. I mean, believe it or not, there are agents out there who are selling who don't own a life insurance policy. Like, that doesn't even make any sense. Like, they don't even value it enough themselves to own it.
It's like selling a car, but you ride a bike to work.
Yeah, if you're listening and you don't have a life insurance policy and you're in the life insurance industry, ask yourself, why not? And ask yourself, am I a credible advisor?
Right.
The answer would be no, you are not.
I think that's interesting, Roger, because if you did ask yourself and say, okay, why don't I have that? The answers that you're going to tell yourself are probably the same exact answers that clients give you on a daily basis of why they don't want to buy from you.
That is a great point, man.
Yeah, you could be your own best objection giver because you've clearly given enough that you have not sold yourself.
You keep telling yourself I
you
need
have
to think
two
about it.
options. You have two options. Well, three. You have three options. Number one, you can quit, which might be a good start, because if you don't believe it enough to buy a policy on yourself, it's probably not the right industry for you. Number two, you could fake it, like a lot of people do, and they'll have limited success. Or number three, invest in the thing that you say you believe in with passion and understand the true value of it. So those are your three options.
So if those are the kind of biggest mistakes that agents make, they assume the clients value the agent as well as what the agent is selling. What really is the value of the agent?
That's a great question, and I feel like there are some agents who are probably asking that question. Especially new agents. They don't see themselves as a value point. But the one thing that I have learned in this industry, and I've said it multiple times, is this is an final expense, and I would say even in mortgage protection, these are highly underserved markets. In the last episode, we talked about how it's kind of the Wild West out there. Woo, if you can throw in some sound effects, I'd appreciate it. But, guys who are just, they were great at sales, selling Xeroxes and cars. And they never took the time to learn the products or even the market or even considered educating their clients. And that is one big piece that I see Zach do so well, is the education piece, where clients aren't even aware of what they don't know, and they make purchases based on faulty information in this market. And Zach, can you talk about that a little bit, the education side?
Yeah, and it's really a mindset shift. And I'll tell anybody this. I don't consider myself a salesman at all. I'm more of a teacher and an educator, because when you go into a home, everybody wants to buy, but nobody wants to be sold. And I remind myself of that every single day.
And all of our listeners every week.
Exactly. Yeah, and our whistlers every week, because they have to know that, because it is a difference.
Did you say whistlers or listeners?
Both. But, you got that interruption in your throat. You had to clear that out.
Yes, I did.
It's a fine line of really understanding the difference there, because all we're doing is going in and educating the clients on something they know that we know they need. They've requested information from it. But you have to understand the demographic that we serve and why as a whole that they need it. And then you can apply it to an individual family when you go see them. And all you're doing is giving them the information. You're teaching them about the different options so they can make the best decision for their family. And it just so happens we are there to help them apply for a benefit when they have enough information to make that decision on their own. We just happen to be there, teach them, and then help them apply for that. And another thing on the flip side of that is everybody is skeptical about what you're adamant about them doing. And if you are so gung-ho about getting this or getting that because you may think in your mind that you already know this family needs it and you're trying to get them to do this or get that or sign up for this or right now, they may want it, they may need it, they may feel that they need to get this for their family, but they won't do it from you because they're trying to figure out why you're so adamant about them getting it, and they become skeptical of it. So it's really being patient, educate, walk your client through the process so they can make the best decision for their family with your guidance, not because you told them to.
Yeah, that education piece comes down to two things, really. It's number one, developing trust. If you don't develop trust with people, you're establishing yourself as a good person, as a good human being, in addition to being a sales advisor or a life insurance advisor or health insurance advisor, whatever that is. And a part of that trust goes hand in hand with credibility, right? So credibility comes from your knowledge on the industry and how it can benefit their family. So establishing trust and credibility is a two-step process. Like, break down the personal barriers, but then let them know that you're here to give them the information and serve them with educating them on these products and how they can benefit their family from their perspective, with your expertise, as a life insurance advisor. And if you do those two things, then they feel valued, right? They feel valued as individuals and that you're actually there to communicate from their perspective.
The great thing about that is you are, as an agent, now you are a value point to them. Because this probably, honestly, isn't the first time that they've talked about life insurance. Matter of fact, I can't tell you how many times I've had sits with people and they mention that very thing, that nobody's taken the time to teach them about these products and how they work and how they benefit them. So all of a sudden, you, not just the product, you are a value point. And Roger, that word trust is so big, because if you have created yourself as a value point, when they fill out an application, they're trusting you with their family. They're trusting you, the agent, with their family. Is it possible that they would trust you with referrals? Is that possible?
When you all are talking about this, I'm reading a book right now, Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. And he simplifies the interaction of a customer with a business as basically, think of it like a movie, and he breaks down the 7 points of a movie or of a story. And one of those points is, the character meets a guide. And so he talks about, Chris, you being the Star Wars guy, Luke meets Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
And so he has this guide, Obi-Wan, to help him along the way. I'm trying to think of a good example for you, Zach. I thought everyone's seen Star Wars. But like Frodo has Gandalf, right?
Yeah.
Katniss has Haymitch. Hamlet was led by his father's ghost. I'm letting Tom
Kobe
help
had
me
Shaq.
out here. Kobe had Shaq, exactly. But there's always a guide that helps them get to where they want to go. And so as an agent, you're serving as that guide. As a business person, you always serve. What his whole principle is, you, the agent, are not the hero of the sale. The client is the hero. The client is the hero of their own story. You're just the guide to help them get there.
Use the force, Luke.
Exactly.
You shall not pass.
There we go. Zach, you got to do a Shaq impression now.
Oh, man.
Pass the ball, Kobe.
So it's just this idea of, having a guide in the process. So
yeah,
definitely check out that book.
That's an interesting way of looking at it. I never
huge.
thought about that. So you're the guide in the hero's quest. You're not the hero.
That's
Too many
great,
agents
man.
think they're the hero. That's the
Yeah.
problem.
So if you're the guide, well, then you're the one helping them figure out, you're educating them. Now they understand what it is. And then you help them figure out, okay, why do I need this?
You're Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah, exactly.
Wax
I
on.
knew we'd find one for you, buddy.
That's a callback, man. That's an old one.
there was a remake, but as far as that analogy, I think that is really strong, man. I like it a lot. I like making the client the hero. I think a lot of people can relate to that, and it also kind of removes our egos that can so easily get inflated in this business, because it becomes about the client. That's what it's really about. This is the other part in that conversation about bringing value, a value point to the client, is investigating the real need, investigating the need for the client. And I don't think a lot of agents do that. We've referred to this previously with in regards to finding the real need in different podcasts, but we're talking about it specifically at this point as being a value point for the client. And I think, again, Zach, I think this is something that you get pretty passionate about. Where have you seen your value rise as an agent in doing that?
Is making it about the client. Exactly what you said is making them the hero. And just my job is just a facilitator. The client is Malone, I'm Stockton, right? All you have to do is to understand that. And when you're finding the needs, we talk about real need for a reason. Because it's not, I need to get one more app to be number one this week. It's not, I need, another 1,000 annualized premium to reach this sales leaders contest or trip or award or recognition. It's never about us. And that's where a lot of people make the mistake, and they can never get over that barrier of being truly a great insurance agent and is what we like to call a true difference maker. I pride myself on listening and understanding and listen for tonality, listen for emotion, digging in tough questions so the client they will literally tell you what they need, why they need it, how much they need, as long as we are asking the right questions and, more importantly, listening for the responses and analyzing their body language and their emotions in those responses, because most of the time they want to tell you more, but they're just waiting for you to say, why is that important to you? Or tell me more about that.
Yeah.
Right. And then they just continue to open up, but they hesitate that at first. And as a beginning agent for me and most agents out there that are new, you never really understand, or you never pick up on these clues to just go that one extra question, because that can just blow the sit wide open, and then you become a complete family member, and it changes the dynamic of everything. And it's not about you, and you actually are able to put a plan in place that is exactly what the client wants and needs. And when you do that, the impact you made on that family is irreplaceable.
Have you ever sat with a client, and I know I have, I know you guys have too, so it's not even a fair question, where they have bought a policy because an agent was selling them a cremation policy, for instance, but the agent didn't follow through and find out what their other needs were when it comes to insurance?
All the time, man. And those are the easiest ones to replace, because if you understand, like, the reasoning behind them getting that coverage was so service level, the relationship was surface level, the education was service level, and they didn't listen or pay attention to the client one bit. So there's no relationship there. There's just a policy, and the client kind of knows why they got it. Well, I just wanted cremation. That was it. He didn't really tell me anything else or figure that out. That's not really seeing the full picture. That's trying to get an app and move into the next house.
Yeah, and for the most part, it's poor training. That agent's probably just duplicating what they saw someone else do. What do we do? We sell final expense plans, burial and cremation policies. So, do you think about getting cremated or buried? Cremated. Well, cremations are $6,000 to $8,000. So let's look at something like that, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. That's it. Yeah. And they're down to it. And it's just a numbers game. There's just like flipping through the leads to get to the ones who are laydowns. Guys, here's a secret for anyone listening. There are laydowns out there in the leads. We have plenty of leads that you can get on a weekly basis. And if you just want to look for the laydowns, you'll make a mediocre living. But they're there. Mm-hmm. You can make a mediocre living. But you're not serving clients. You're just taking orders. Anyone can take an order. You're not anyone. You're not anyone. You want to be someone. So be someone and do the work.
Yeah.
Connect with these people, develop some credibility, develop some trust, understand what their needs are. And when, like Zach said, when they start opening up and they start telling you the things that are important to them, they are literally giving you the formula. They are giving you the roadmap to actually close them properly. It's not just about a cremation. There all these other needs come into play, and they're verbalizing it. And now they look at you like you're a genius. No one's ever talked to us about this before. Like, why didn't anyone else discuss this with us? And all you did was just have some patience and say, I'm a real person. What are your real needs? It's not that complicated.
How much value do you think the client places on that?
I don't know if they place a lot initially because they're closed, right? Like Zach said, nobody wants to be sold. So they're kind of closed off. And that's why it's so important for us to develop that trust. In the education process, I mean, we can start educating right away. If we don't have their trust, we're still not getting through. We're still not connecting. So it's trust and credibility. They have to go hand in hand. And as you are developing that and letting it marinate and happen, it's like a new relationship with anyone. Like the longer you spend in dialoguing with them, the more comfortable you are. And you decide, I either like this person or I don't. I like what they stand for or I don't. I like how they communicate to me or I don't. The same thing's happening in the home. And that takes a little bit of time, process, trust, credibility. And then the value and the education starts to come into play, because then they know you're listening to them and hearing their real needs and want to know about their life. You're not just there to sell them a cremation or a burial policy or cover their $125,000 mortgage.
Chris,
Let's get that done right away.
The biggest indicator of how much they value that is?
What's that?
It's leaving the home with a family helped, family served, and an application in hand.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest difference. And I'm talking about outside of the laydowns. Everybody knows what a laydown is.
Here's a devil's advocate question for you, okay? Let's say you replaced a cremation plan with something that meets the needs of the client. That agent could say the same thing, that they received an application, right? That they walked out with an application and they served a family. So, I mean, did the client value that as much, or do they value you investigating the real need? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, and in that situation, most likely, if we do find additional need or a better need for the client, that policy is getting replaced. And I promise you, they feel different when I leave the home than when they left the home the first time. Yeah. So that's why I said beyond the laydown, because in that situation, Chris, that client doesn't have a policy already if they weren't a laydown client when somebody just comes in and goes, oh, you need cremation, here you go, boom. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about the other 80% of your leads that you actually have to get to know them, understand who they are, let them see you, build the need, actually do a true sit, and not walk in and say, here's a cremation plan. Right. So all the other ones, if you're ever in a sit where you walk at the door and they have their wall up, or they're aggressive, or they're really hard to open up at the beginning, and at the very end of that, they're hugging you, they're crying, they're thanking you, they save your number in their phone, they put your picture on their fridge, they call and check in on you, they add you on Facebook as a friend. Like, all of those things are differences. So
for new agents, though, when they leave and they don't get the sale, or when they leave and they got the sale, when they leave and they get the sale, and it might have been a laydown, they felt like they won and they did their job. When they don't get the sale, they don't know why. And I will tell you now, as a listener to this podcast, if the worst sale that you lose is the one you didn't know you could have. The worst sale to lose is the one you didn't know you can have, because you continue moving forward as if you're doing everything correctly. And there's no self introspection as to what could I have done to uncover real need there. And there's no one mentoring you. So if you're going through this quick process to try to find out whether it's cremation or burial, or whether they want to do the whole mortgage or a partial mortgage, and there's not much beyond that, poor training, poor mentorship, poor support. Look for some better support, because you can become a great advisor and really help and bless families rather than just making life insurance sales. If you're just interested in life insurance sales, you can stop listening to this podcast now.
I think what you said there, Roger, is a huge issue with ego and pride, that to your peers, to your group, to whoever you're in, you don't want it to seem like you didn't close every single client that you sat with. So it's always an excuse of why, and it turns out to never, ever, ever, ever be your fault. And you will never get any better from that. Either nobody was home. Every single person that you went to go see was all in Florida on vacation this week, or every single one of them was sick, or everyone was one-legged sits. I mean, it's always something. But
the leads were too old. The daughter wasn't home. It was way too many other variables.
Believe me, if they got 3 applications out of 20 leads, those were the only 3 anybody in this world would have got. Nobody else would have done it. And it's amazing, because you find people that have absolutely maxed out their talents, and the way you can see that is exactly what you said. It's those people.
I don't know if they've maxed out their talents. I don't know if they're aware of what is possible. And so they're just with a group that never taught them any better, and they may not have even been in sales before, and they're just doing what they think they should do. No one's teaching them, and they're not. So if you're listening to the podcast today, you're like miles ahead of everybody else who's doing that stuff, because at least you're listening to some people who are giving you a slightly different perspective. Because at the end of the day, you have to ask, is for that client to find true value, they need to be able to answer the question, will it meet my needs? Is it meeting the needs of my family? And has this advisor helped me do that? And have I felt valued and fulfilled, in the process?
There's two great questions that clients are asking, and they don't know they're asking. But do they know enough? Do they know enough to care about their products and their industry and their services? And then do they care enough to know about me and my needs? Like, those are two big gaping holes where the value gets filled. So if we can answer those and answer that big question of, will this product meet my need? Then we've brought a lot of value just as an agent. And we haven't even really gotten to the products yet.
So what's important about that, Chris, is a new agent or any agent, period, understanding those two questions. That is step one of writing those down, and sit down and think about those two questions, because most people that wasn't in my mind at all for like the first 8 months I was into the business at all. Like, nobody taught me that. Anybody asked me the questions. I just wasn't thinking that way. So, but you're exactly right. That is the key to ultimately being the best advisor you possibly can, is answering those two questions in every single home.
So if we're building the value throughout the entire sit for the close, we've already talked about building the value of us, the agent, being there. But let's kind of break down what are the value points for the client to have these products? What are the questions they're asking around value?
Yeah, I think there are a series of questions that they're going to ask. And again, these are instincts more than questions. Because they typically haven't verbalized it, or they don't have the words for it. Number one is, will it meet my needs? So if very first step of that is helping them identify it, number one, what the real need is. Because like I've said before, it's kind of like they've hit an emotional funny bone and they don't have the words for that. So we're giving them some language for what their need is. But throughout our sales process, and if you don't have a sales process, you need one, you need to help them. It needs to be revealed how this product will solve that problem for them.
Yeah, a lot of times for that, like you said, Chris, these are questions that they do have, but a lot of times they don't know they have them until you bring that up or you give them the answer. Then they bring up the question, and then it's automatically answered, meaning it's nonverbal. A lot of these are nonverbal. I mean, can we imagine a client sitting there going, Chris, will this meet my needs? How many clients have literally asked you that?
Yeah, none.
It doesn't happen, but I promise you, in every sit, this is what they're thinking. And we as agents have to know that. Will it meet my needs? And what comes with that is, does he, the agent, or her, or whoever's sitting with me, will they meet my needs and understand what I need, so then they can help me understand if this does reach my needs, if that doesn't confuse everybody on the podcast.
And ultimately, if they think it meets the needs, the very next question that they're asking, because for most, when there's no value, right? We say that every dollar is too much. There's no price low enough, right? We've discussed that before. Right. When there's no value. So we're raising value, right? We're elevating value. We've established trust. We've established credibility. We've talked about their real needs. We've investigated their family situation. We've asked them for feedback. We asked them to tell us more. Why are these things important to you? Tell me more about that situation. Then when we get into our solutions, it's not just about will it meet my needs, but the big question in their brain is that I can't afford this, and I don't want to tell them I can't afford it. I hope it's not too much money. Maybe it is, and that's going to be the big decider at the end. And But as we develop need and trust, and as we uncover need, establish trust with credibility, educate, listen, the value goes up. And as the value goes up, the amount that they're willing to pay goes up because now there's something tied to it. And so the affordable thing starts to become the next logical progression in their mind of the thing that they need to address. And so then it's about you being sensitive to their family's needs, affordability, and their ability to pay. Because sometimes people just think, I want $50,000 because that's what I'd like to have because they heard someone else say that, or I want $20,000, and they have no clue how much that is. And you're sitting with somebody who's got some health challenges, right? So now we've got to take value and tie it to price.
And I'll say one thing about affordability. This isn't what they think they can squeeze together for 1 month. This is what they can afford on holidays, birthdays, and weekends. Because life has still happened. They will still need an oil change in their car. They will still probably hit a few nails and get a flat tire. This is what is affordable for them with life still happening. And I always tell my clients, they'll say, I can do this because I'll pay my car off in 1 more month and then I will really be freed up or this or that. Well, this isn't depending on a bill because at some point in your life, you'll have another car. You'll have another bill. You'll have other things that come and happen. This has to be affordable that stays around for a long time. So pay it.
And if they're making those types of statements, that's an indicator for you that you've not built enough value, that they don't value it enough to say, no matter what, this is important.
Well, here's the thing, people spend 110% of what they make, meaning they always bite off more than they can chew. And that's natural. And to be a real difference maker, and really help a family to find if it's affordable or not. It's not what's the biggest premium I can get out of this client. It's, what's something that's going to be there not only now, but when the day they need it or when they are retired and they do have a fixed income. I would much rather help a client put together a $50 a month policy that stays forever rather than an $89 policy that only stays for 3 months.
And I think that conversation of value connected to time is huge. It's huge. I know, like Zach had said, when I started, I didn't see the correlation or the relationship. When the very first conversation or question is, how much is this going to cost? And there is a massive difference between cost and value. And if you're addressing things on the front side about cost, without value, then you aren't bringing value as an advisor yourself. I do think that is a value point for people when you have an advisor, who says, you have a client who says, I really want that $50,000 policy. I really want it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. It's going to be $200 a month. I get $900 out of Social Security a month. And I'm going to go ahead and do that. And the advisor's blinking their eyes, and you see dollar signs in their retinas or whatever. And, they're getting excited and they write the application and they go home clicking their heels. And, the month later, the client is, sleeping off their need hangover or the desire hangover. And they decide, hey, we're going to cancel this because the agent didn't take the time and say, Roger, I don't know if you can afford this. I'm looking at your budget. I wouldn't feel comfortable if you picked that. I wouldn't feel comfortable. I don't know if, your car needs a new carburetor or if they're still putting those on cars. I don't know. But, if your car needs something, I don't know if you're going to be able to afford that and this. So why don't we look at something that's a little easier for you to take care of when times get hard? I think that raises the value of the client and the product, both of those.
Do they put carburetors on those Jedi spaceships you like?
Yes, they do.
So if they figure out that it is affordable, I think, and this kind of goes back to the trust portion that we talked about, is this idea of, okay, if I give you money today that I can afford? And then where's it going? And am I ever going to see this again? Not am I, but like, will my family ever see this again? Will this be there for me and my family when they need it?
Again, this is one of those questions that sometimes isn't asked out loud, but it's always in their mind. And that's why when Chris talks about following a sales system, that is so crucial, because even in the one that we use and we teach, when you're coming down to the end, we're reaffirming the education piece of the plan that's right for them and walking through the 5 guarantees of what it's going to do, how it's going to be there for them when their family needs it the most. And not only that, we'll probably get into this in the next couple episodes of this series of how we go about not only ensuring that this is going to be there when they need it, but we are also going to be there when the family needs it the most, and when that beneficiary is crying and upset and not knowing where to go, who to call, or what to do. So not only will this plan be there for the family, but so will we. And that's coming and delivering that and reconfirming that towards the end and moving into the actual close. And you may be like, oh, what the world is close, right? Look, everything we've talked about is building up to the closing. And it is part of closing, because you can't close without having all of these features and everything that we've talked about on this podcast up until now. And we're moving to more of the closing statement or the closing techniques that you're able to use to finalize the close.
I think one of the pieces of, answering the question, will it be there for me when I need it, is understanding the right type of product for that client. If you're dealing with a mortgage protection client, that doesn't have the same 5 guarantees as a final expense plan does. Seniors are concerned about some different factors and variables that someone who's putting a $250,000 mortgage protection plan in place.
Yeah.
If you're talking to a mortgage protection client who just refinanced their home or bought a new home, like the critical illness rider or the chronic illness rider or a critical injury rider, like these things are going to have as much value or more, and oftentimes, than the actual death benefit. And so you're addressing the family's entire need and their potential liability. And so when you address that and talk about how the product meets the need, then there is a confidence to move forward. With final expense, like our clients out there, guys, are getting marketed to all the time. They get stuff in the mail from New York Life, from Globe Life. They see stuff on television from Colonial Penn, from AAA, right? And if they're not reading the fine print, they don't realize they're signing up for a 5-year increasing term policy that terminates at age 80. That looks like it's designed for final expenses, because on the backside of that card, it talks about final expenses averaged this price in America last year. But yet when you read the details in the fine print of the marketing piece, it says this policy automatically annually renews every 5 years and terminates at age 80. So you need to educate your clients on these things and let them know how the product and service that we're presenting and offering is clearly going to meet their need with, for final expense, with a permanent plan that never goes up. The price never goes up. The benefit never goes down. Pays out to your beneficiary, income tax free. Right, there's certain features and guarantees. So knowing not just about your product, but what else is out there in the industry that they're seeing allows you to clear up the fog. Because sometimes when they see on television that they can get $100,000 for $19 a month or $10 a month, like unless you address that or at least bring it up and let them know the difference between that and what they need, it could be a barrier for you to close at the end. So, because they don't know then, well, will this be there for me when I need it? And ultimately, we need to address the specific need for that family and then align how our products that we're going to present to them to meet the need is the right solution, the best solution, giving them the most affordable plan for them, their health condition, to meet their specific needs. So the education piece and the credibility speaks directly into that. Unless we cover it, it could be a barrier for you to close.
Another key value point for people that isn't asked, these are questions that typically aren't asked, but they're wondering about, is are they a good company and do they keep their word? Are they a good company and do they keep their word? I can't tell you how many times I've been in sits with clients and I've heard stories that they had a policy and it didn't pay out. So they're against life insurance because they don't trust life insurance. And that's a key issue for a lot of people. They were told one thing and it's not what it was. So whether it didn't pay out, or in some cases, I know you guys run into this too, where there's a policy that wasn't structured correctly and it's ending, and all of a sudden their guard goes up, or they've heard a story of a friend whose policy imploded because it wasn't structured correctly, and now they don't trust life insurance. So I feel like this is a major question in people's guts when they're sitting with us trying to figure out what value we bring to them.
I mean, when you're talking about a good company, a lot of times we're on the front lines, and usually our clients only see or know, especially the market that we serve, the companies that are blasted in their mailbox or on TV, which are a lot of guaranteed issue companies, which a lot of times aren't the best for our clients. So when you talk about are they a good company, usually they're only as good as the agent. And what I mean by that is the agent is actually bringing value in talking about the benefits with enthusiasm that a company offers and how long they've been around and their financial strength, and doing their homework and presenting that and building the value not on just the need of the client, but on the company that they're going to recommend to them. That goes a long way. That goes a long way with making them feel comfortable, because at the end of the day, they're trusting us from that trust and credibility that we established at the beginning of the sit to put them in the right product. And it's always good for us to ensure that they are as well.
And I think company, depending on how an agent is set up, could represent multiple entities. So there's kind of multiple layers to this of the company as in the carrier that they're placing their client with in those products, but also the company that the agent is representing, and the agent themselves. I mean, will either of them and will both of them be there for my family when they need it? Are they reliable? Can they be trusted?
Yeah, in this day and age, it's very easy for people to do their homework. And that's, you can crank it up and hop onto the Google machine and look into, Austin Lopsavero insurance company and see if there's reviews or, what people are saying about you as an entity or group. Matter of fact, I just think this, I don't know. I don't know if I feel comfortable with this, but if somebody, looked up, Chris Ball Insurance Inc., and they pulled it up on the Google machine and they saw my home address, like that as a client, that kind of feels weird. Like, I think I would rather see an office, address, because Google Earth, I mean, it's crazy what gets pulled up these days.
And you're saying you as the agent, like if they pulled up you.
Yeah, if they were checking me out.
The carrier. Okay.
No, me as the agent and the entity that I work with as an insurance marketing group, if they're just pulling up, and it's fine. I'm just saying personally, that would just feel kind of strange for me if, as a client and I pull it up and it's some dude's house with his kids playing in a blow-up pool in the front yard, is that...
Why is the blow-up pool in the front yard?
Because they're working on stuff in the back. I don't know. But, I mean, that's just one layer of it. The other part of it is did you not do a good job? Like, is back to some of our other podcasts, are there reviews of you and your company that affects your closing? That would be negative. That would affect your closing.
Or at least your persistency. You might close it, but then after you leave the house, they might start looking you up, and then you're not getting that placement and persistency.
Yeah, but if it's not placed or persisted, is it really closed? That's my question.
That's fair.
Some agents have a problem with getting their policies replaced because they don't spend the time to educate them on the company that they put the client with. They don't take the time to talk about the credibility of the company, how long they've been in business, all the additional features and benefits that company serves. They don't leave them any collateral because it's inconvenient to order it from the carrier and they just got to carry this crap around in their trunk. And you know what? I'm just going to give them a folder with a price. And okay, yippee-ki-yay, you did your job, you got a policy, your name was on the leaderboard next week. Woohoo! Let's look at it, 90 days from now and see how many of those policies are still on the books. If you've got a persistency problem, like, address it. Like, again, it goes back to educating the client on the company, the quality of business that they offer, the many years they've been in business, who we are, our organization, my affiliation, our local office, how you can reach our office. If you don't trust me, you can reach out directly to our office. If you can't reach me, you can reach out to the main office at this line. Like, these are all credibility pieces that bring certainty and confidence to the client. Then they don't get buyer's remorse the same way.
And even with that, Roger, like, by giving them that, it is awesome because, in that agent, they have everything set up for, they have an office phone number, they have an office address, they have other people to call if you don't answer. Like, all of that stuff makes you feel good. But even with that, if you're still getting phone calls to the office about a particular agent, I just wanted to verify that everything was legit. I mean, which is great, but you have to look internally. Okay, why am I getting this phone call? Obviously, I'm not building enough trust or enough value. I need to figure out what I can do better so that those phone calls happen. Because I'll tell you one thing, not everybody receives those phone calls to check that. They don't. Now, it's all available for any client at period to call, but you don't hear calls for every agent.
Well, some take the time to go the extra step to educate the client on the quality of product that they have, who we are as an organization, our affiliation, and they walk out. The client feels fully confident and comfortable with the relationship.
How long does that normally take, Roger?
Well, it takes the whole sit.
No, but particularly the company that you're putting them with. And going through the marketing materials of the folder.
I take at least 10 minutes and review all that. Yeah, at least. Minimum.
Like, it doesn't take much time. That's the thing. And, it comes back to people taking shortcuts. It comes back to people submitting applications in with errors on them because they don't take an extra 2 minutes to just look it over to see if they, dotted all their I's and crossed all their T's. It's just all comes down to patience, take your time, and move through the process.
And, those pieces and that communication comes back to answering the question, is this company and this agent and advisor and their organization, are they going to be there for me when my family needs it? So not only is it affordable, does it meet my need, but are they going to be there when I need it? And those are all pieces that are wrapped up in trust, credibility, education, uncovering real need, finding value, presenting an affordable solution, establishing trust and goodwill on the way out, and then following through to connect with your client, even in the after sale, the cool down, and then the after sale. Like, stay connected. These people, they have lives. They're human beings. Treat them as such. And if you take care of your clients, they'll take care of you.
Well, that's a wrap for today's episode. Remember, the first part of closing is building value from the start. So take the questions you know the client is wondering and address them ahead of time and throughout your entire sales process. If you don't have a sales process, or if you need more help with closing, reach out to us. We're here to help. Just visit our website or the show notes page at liapodcast.org/EP32. That's liapodcast.org/EP32. As always, thanks so much for listening to the Life Insurance Academy podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, make sure to subscribe wherever you're listening, rate us 5 stars, and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Life Insure Acad. The Life Insurance Academy podcast is hosted, edited, and mixed by me, Austin Lopes-Silvero. This episode was produced by Chris Ball and myself. Our theme song is by Flashing Lights. We'll catch you on another episode, including our next closing checklist show on pricing strategy. Until then, stay safe and go be a difference maker.